Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm just double checking as I usually do. Yes, we're all good. We're good to go. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good day and I hope this week has not been too crazy for you. It's a shorter week for us because we had family day here where I am in Canada, in Alberta, and it just feels like I can't believe it's Wednesday already. In any case, I hope this week's blog post was a really good one for most of you. We often have this discussion of codes, categories versus theme. I am someone who has a lot more experience with qualitative content analysis and have in the past struggled with seeing the difference between thematic analysis and qualitative content analysis mostly because I believe a certain level of theming happens in qualitative content analysis. However, what I say and I repeat to the students that I work with now is that when you actually try and practice content analysis versus thematic analysis in a small piece of data, you can realize that difference. And it is something that if you haven't done yet, I encourage you to do. I do that exercise inside of Qualitative Research Blueprint and QDM, Qualitative Data Analysis Masterclass, because doing that exercise really helped me to grasp what that latent meaning that is in a theme, how that is different from what you do when you code and categorize, staying closer to the data and in a more descriptive way. In the blog post, I offer you a quote, and I will actually pull it up because I don't think I would be able to say without pulling it up. It's from Saldanha's book. If you don't know Johnny Saldanha, I highly recommend. His book is super fun and easy to read, and it's helpful because it has some great examples. I use many of them inside QRB as a reference, and I really find them easy to understand, and as I said, fun because they are really easy. And he says, and I quote, a theme is an outcome of coding, categorization, and analytic reflection, not something that is in itself coded. So to me, the way I see a theme being different from a code and a category comes with that level of interpretation that is involved in that analysis. The thing that gets me and I find difficult to not find myself sometimes in a pickle is that I do believe there is a level of theming in qualitative content analysis. I think it's necessary. I think it's what brings the data to life in a way because you are interpreting, you are assigning meaning, and you're just not like showing what people said without any context. So when you do that, there is a certain level of theming also in qualitative content analysis. To me, how they differentiate is qualitative content analysis versus thematic analysis is the point where you start theming and when that starts happening. In thematic analysis, that creation or formation of themes start a lot earlier. So you might have a full transcript that you don't get 100 themes from that because you are looking at chunks of that text and assigning a theme to that, which is different from what you would do if you're coding and categorizing, where you're getting a lot more smaller chunks of text, highlighting more, having more words for the same. I would say if we are looking at one page or one paragraph, you would have a lot more words and things in terms of codes and possible categories there versus the number of themes you would have if you were looking at the same chunk of text. So those are my main comments about theming versus coding, or codes versus themes. If this is something that you have struggled to understand, if you're doing one versus the other, I want to assure you in a way that it's okay to have that thought in your head. And it's probably unlikely for you to have a straight answer about that. It's not really easy to dissect what you're doing, whether you have a certain level of interpretation and acknowledging what the level of subjectivity involved in that. It's hard. And when I say it's hard, it comes from even recent experiences with one of the students that I work with. We were doing that analysis of one of her interviews, and at a certain point we were like, well, this wouldn't really be a code. Like, we are starting to theme and assign meaning to this chunk of text, and we kind of had to watch ourselves in going back to the data and looking like, what can we actually say and what is here versus what we are assuming and interpreting. So it's an exercise that requires that reflection and that reflexivity. And I think that's what I would encourage you to do as you're going through this process. If you're getting to a point, especially if you're doing qualitative content analysis, and that's what I encouraged her to do, like, you're trying to stay close to your data, your codes and categories are meant to be more descriptive, to really mimic and mirror what the data in itself has. But you don't want to ignore the themes and your interpretations, because I think there is so much value in that, and I think it needs to come out as at a certain point, especially in the writing phase. So what I encouraged her to do was to use a blank wall she had behind her when we were meeting, use post-it notes and make as many notes as she needed of the things that she felt she was interpreting, the themes she was starting to see in her data. So no matter what you are doing, there is a space, and you need to allow that space in your brain to think and interpret, and you need to capture that. And I think that's the exercise that comes with making the writing frequent and part of your data analysis such an important step that if you kind of forgo, I don't want to say you pay the price, but you miss something from that process of analyzing your data and finding the novelty that we talked about as well a few weeks ago with Kaylia's blog post. I will be putting this on the comments for you all, because I know it's something that we discussed. So yesterday actually, I read a paper, and it's actually going to be a blog post in March, on March 16th. And it's a brand new one, I think it is. Like, it's brand new, it's less than 6 months. And it's from Brown and Clark, two really well-known references for thematic analysis. And it's a methodological paper, and they compare thematic analysis not only to qualitative content analysis, but also to IPA, grounded theory, and discourse analysis as well. So it's such an interesting one, and I will be including that as a reference in the course, and I want to share that with you as well. And I am also becoming more familiar with the references by I might be chopping and saying her name so incorrectly here, and I apologize in advance. If anyone knows the correct pronunciation, please share with me, because I don't like to do that with people's name. It's Mojtaba Vesmovradi, I think. Vasmoradi is in Sweden, I believe. No, she's in Norway and has many excellent references talking about theming in content analysis, theming in qualitative description, which often uses qualitative content analysis. So if you are someone looking for ways to better understand and name your processes, what you're doing, whether you're coding, categorizing, or theming, these references are of interest for you or to you. And I will be putting them in the comments, and I highly encourage you to take a look and see if they help you and kind of navigate this tale of two approaches and try to understand, where do you stand in that? Do you see yourself as someone who has a clear view of what theming versus coding is? In your processes, do you know what you're doing and when you're doing one versus the other? How do you know that? And if possible, and I hope it is possible, take some time to write that down. Like, how do you differentiate? How do you understand when you're doing one versus the other? And what do you do in that process when you're coding and categorizing versus when you're theming? I think that's very important. If you are doing qualitative content analysis, I do have a resource on the website. It was the first one that we created back in 2019. It's called the QualiQ Guide to Content Analysis. I also include a short explanation of not only qualitative content analysis, but the directive and summative approaches. And a key reference that I have used, it's an old one, but it's really good. It's from 2005. So take a look if you also need a bit more clarity on what qualitative content analysis is. So giving you kind of like a lot of readings to consider and a lot of things to do if you want to take this seriously and start writing and better naming what you're doing and how you're doing, especially when it comes to your analytic processes. And that's all I had to share today. If you have any questions, let me know. Post them in the comments, and I am here for now, and I will be including these references in the comments. And if you have read any of them and you really like them, share with other people in the group. Like, let them know where to start and the favorite ones or your favorite one. I must say that I really enjoyed the paper from Brown and Clark that came out last year. I think it might become one of those highly cited references because anytime that a methodological paper lays out what the differences between approaches are, and also is not afraid of saying how in qualitative research we commonly see the same processes being named different things. And that's what I really liked about this paper. I do believe that a lot of confusion could be avoided if we eliminated the extra terms, but as they said, they are so well rooted that we just have to go with knowing the similarities and naming what we are doing well. Amy saying, I seem to need constant information to feel secure about my qualitative work. So I think qualitative researchers do feel that more often than other types of researchers. And I don't know if I know exactly why. I have a few theories, but in a way, honor the fact that you have questions about what you're doing. And as long as those questions are not coming from doubts and insecurities that others are putting in your mind or that you perceive that are coming from colleagues, peers, reviewers, because in a way you have to let go of those, especially if they don't serve your work and what you're doing. But if those questions are coming from your own intellectual growth and maturity as a qualitative researcher, I think they are worth pursuing and worth studying and reading and writing about. And that's why I encourage the reading and the writing, because those are things that matter to you, no matter what the ramifications in terms of how you present to others are and what reflection it might have externally. I think the most important piece is that comfort within yourself and in your work with what you're doing, because that will increase your self-esteem, your confidence, your likelihood of really stepping into that place where you're not afraid of putting things out there and of daring with your qualitative research. And I think that's the most important thing. So let's keep working on that and just making sure that it's about your growth and not about what other people might be thinking and are thinking about your work. But the references are great, and I think you will enjoy them. Not only you, Amy, but any others that are watching today. I think I have this firm belief that qualitative content analysis involves theming, and we use the word themes there. And I also think they're very similar, thematic analysis and qualitative content analysis. So what I'm trying to do is to increase my repertoire of references to really be able to justify my thoughts and what I need to tell reviewers if I ever get questions about, well, aren't you doing thematic analysis? And I'm okay with that because I have kind of landed on the family, as Brown and Clark say, the family that I'm following, but I also understand the similarities of the three branches in that family tree with other approaches to qualitative analysis. So it's really a matter of knowing where you stand, what you believe, and finding ways to write about that and justify the things you need to justify when you are responding to a reviewer or a critic or someone who is just curious about how did you do this. So naming what needs to be named. It's also the topic of a blog post that will be coming up soon. So have an excellent day, and I will be including the references right away so you can check them out when you have a chance and have fun. Have fun with reading and writing. Talk soon, everyone.